But I don't get much satisfaction from having a string of macro forecasts running
that have all come true, I might add.
The only one I've really messed up on in the last 2 or 3 years, really messed up on, was I thought that we were going to see the dollar get harmed badly this spring and summer, and instead we had a liquidation-based and engineered rally. All right. So that is a big error. But you know what? I'm coming to learn that the dollar rally is a sign of its death.
Tell me why you say that.
Well, you're having liquidation. We've been saying now for 3 or 4 years the biggest enemy to the U.S. economy and banking system would be liquidation of giant speculative trades. In fact, the largest hedge fund in the world is the entire U.S. economy.
That's true.
So
one could agree with that.
Liquidation is an enemy to speculation. So what you're seeing is a lot of liquidation of big hedge funds, of foreign positions. And if you know much about speculation, you realize that a great deal of them are based on shorting the U.S. Treasury and going long, say, a higher-paying yield bond like mortgages or emerging market or the gold position. Now, as you unwind that, you buy back what you shorted, the U.S. Treasury. J.P. Morgan pretends as though it's a flight to safety. No, it's a flight into where the tsunami hits. Mm-hmm. If you look closely at what happened in the Indonesia, Philippines, and Thailand, what year was that? Was that 2005 or so, the big tsunami?
Yep.
Tide went out in a very big way right before the tsunami hit. And I think that's precisely what's happening right now. I got word in the last 24 hours that the Europeans, Russians, Chinese, and Arabs have agreed to a new world currency.
Isn't that interesting?
Right.
Okay, in the last, 24 hours?
24 hours. That's what I've heard recently, and it's going to be based on a basket, and the dollar and British pound are not included. So those currencies are going to be largely tethered to gold. There's going to be a new Russian gold-backed ruble and a new Arab Gulf dinar. You cannot have a global finance system with a world reserve currency based on a debt system.
No, you can't, Jim. I agree.
Or an indebted economy.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree with that. Okay, so you're saying basically that the Russians, etc., are going to introduce a new currency that is actually asset-based. Is that correct?
Gold-based, yes.
100% gold-based?
Well, there's going to be a basket, and don't even be surprised to see something, for instance, like the euro splitting in two.
Okay.
A main euro that could be gold-backed, and a Latin euro, which will be trashed.
Okay.
Spain, Italy.
What's the point of having 2 euros? What's the point of not just having a euro based on an asset such as gold?
What they want to do is carve off the garbage.
Okay.
Which is Spain, Italy, Portugal, Greece, the garbage. And the garbage is basically those nations that followed the United States lead, building an economy based on a housing bubble, and now their banking systems are utterly destroyed. Unfortunately, Ireland is included in that. I call it the death of the Anglosphere. Mm-hmm. And I believe the exceptions might be Canada and Australia.
Give me a time frame.
There is no time frame, but if you can look at the pace of events, there's one thing that sticks out and hits you in the face every week: acceleration.
Okay.
Every week there's a new big surprise. Every week there's a new disaster. Every week there's a new panic and a new decision that must be made. You have to ask the question, who is calling the shots here? Who is forcing decisions? The answer is the Bank for International Settlements, which has had enough of the United States.
Interesting point.
I expect that we are going to see a lot of pressure toward a U.S. Treasury default.
In the relatively near future, Jim?
Yeah. I asked a number of different people, what's the timetable here? And I'm hearing this over and over again. Remember when Iraq was invaded with shock and awe? Mm-hmm. We were told that it's not a calendar schedule, it's an event-based schedule. So one event will happen, pressures will build, talk will happen, decisions will be made based on finances and ratios and solvency, and then something else will happen. Well, what kicked this off was the Fannie Mae failure. And what started that off was foreigners selling Fannie Mae bonds.
Right.
Okay, so foreigners are kicking into this. They're kicking this process off. What they're basically doing, Al, is saying we're not going to tolerate the United States bankrupt system. We're not going to tolerate the bankrupt fraud that they're distributing around the world. We have sent cancer and toxin around the globe. And now it's time for the United States to pay the price, which is to be shunned, to be denied supply, and to be forced to pay for its bills without a printing press, which means that we're going to have to go out and bid up and attract money, bid up the interest rate on Treasury bonds, and we're going to have to attract foreign money in order for us to say buy oil. If the world reserve currency is not the dollar, the key question is, how do we pay for oil? The answer is we will not be able to.
Now, let me
shortage.
Okay, now, let me ask you this. We are, I have disagreed with you many, many times in the past, and unfortunately, on certain occasions, I've had to eat my words. Okay, my question is this. Jim, how feasible is it for the train of events that you're talking about to occur?
I'm sorry, I'll change the question. How feasible is it for the system to continue?
Not very.
Well, there's your answer to the question.
Yeah, there have to be some very, very significant changes, I believe. There's no question about that.
We are losing control. In fact, this bailout bill is going to have a shocking consequence.
What's that?
Nothing is fixed.
Now, tell me what you mean by that.
Well, $700 billion.
Right.
Where's it going to go?
You don't think $700 billion is an accurate number? I don't think it's an accurate number.
Well, first of all, where's it going to go? It's going to go to help out Wall Street firms, but basically to make right a lot of foreigners who forced this bailout bill. It's going to pay off foreigners who held bonds that lost a lot of value. They're going to be made right. They're going to be made good. And after it's done, we've been told that the U.S. banking system is going to get revived and resuscitated with $700 billion. Very little of it's going to go to the U.S., so nothing's going to get fixed, even if all of it went into the U.S. banking system. You've got money markets that are seizing up. You've got Treasury versus Euro dollars that are seizing up. You've got LIBOR, which is seizing up. You've got everything seizing up. Why is LIBOR seizing up? Because the U.S. interest rate is so darn low that the Europeans and the London-based LIBOR, London Interbank Overnight Rate, or offering rate, whatever the O stands for, is just way out of whack compared to what the price of money is in the United States. Things are so out of whack that you've got two prices of gold, an Asian price and a U.S. price. Asians based on physical, Americans based on crappy garbage in paper, in the comics that are dominated by J.P. Morgan and their criminal fraud.